Tom and his father and 19 other people were heading to Queensland to set up this sheep and cattle station, and they picked up out of Rockhampton some 10,000 head of sheep plus cattle, and it took them 8 months to drove the stock out to the station side.
In 1861, when the old man went up to Queensland to start the station, he took Tommy with him under the threat of being disinherited, because the father had sent him to rugby for him to become the great political leader, and he'd come back and he was the great sports leader, but his life off the sports field was chaotic.
Of course, it would have been pretty wild country in those days, and certainly no roads or any other way of getting them out there, but with long, steady droving, so they had shepherds and stock people with them. They'd been there for some little time and started to run short of basic supplies at the station site. Tom and the young shepherd were dispatched down the trail to where they had stored some food.
And then Tom heads off, walking through this landscape. He believes that the Aboriginal people are going to attack, and they're going to attack at any time.
He understood these people. He understood them implicitly because he understood them through their songs, through their language, through their games. And that's how you got to understand these people. And he did. He understood them. That's the reason why he knew that there was a difference between the Jarbarong and the mobs up in Kullaringa. He knew the mobs up in Kullaringa were dangerous.
He warned them. He said, this isn't Ararat. The Indigenous people here have already been attacked and brutalised by other white settlers. They do not trust us. We cannot trust them. And his dad didn't take him seriously.
Goodbye, old fella. Be back as soon as possible, for I'm always uneasy when you're away.
I'll be fine, Father. Look out for them blacks.
No, I can handle the blacks, son. Godspeed.
And they come back and they're at the two mounds, the two mass graves. They walk back into the middle of it, and all these possessions scattered everywhere. I mean, what sort of moment was that?
So he comes back and finds everyone dead. His dad's dead. His mates are dead. His employees are dead. He warned them.
The really interesting thing was if Tom had made a career and if Tom had behaved, his father would never have gone to Queensland. His father went to Queensland to make a career for Tom.
The most important time of his life was the massacre of his family.
I mean, it's an interesting irony, isn't it, that here's this person who kills Aboriginal people down in Western Victoria and heads up north and gets killed.
So he comes back and finds everyone dead, and he and the other guys he took to Brisbane with him are alive. So you've got two issues here: post-traumatic stress and survivor guilt. You don't have to have all the personality of Tom to react to that by becoming a depressive and a drunk. You only have to look at all the studies there have been on Vietnam veterans and the studies there have been on Holocaust survivors. There's a million examples. It amazes me how the fact that Will's actually more or less functioned for a few years back in Melbourne, because I would imagine he was probably pretty badly destroyed as a person.
Tom went on to captain the Victorian cricket team on quite a number of occasions when they played interstate games, and then went on to help establish the Melbourne Football Club, for whom he played, and the Geelong Football Club, for whom he played.
In terms of football, when he left Melbourne in 1865, when he stopped playing with the Melbourne Football Club, it was said in the Melbourne newspapers that the finest leader of men on the football field had left the metropolis and gone to live in Geelong.
He won the champion of the colony 3 times playing for Geelong. He was certainly a terribly important part of our history and background, as with Melbourne's. Without Tom Wills, you wouldn't have had those 2 clubs.
If you look in our emblem, you'll see his name on the back of our emblem. So obviously he's a very important and special part in the football club's history. The biggest thing I take out of it is we all know how tough it was back in the day, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and the settlers coming in, and all the stuff that went on. As an Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander person, you just sit back and just wish that he was still around. You like to acknowledge these sort of people.
I think one of the great strengths of Tom Wills was his belief in the egalitarian ideal, and it didn't really matter if you were black or white. Tom Wills would play sport with you and would engage with you as an equal.
Even though his father and 17 other farm workers on their farm up in Queensland were all murdered by Aboriginals, many years later he was coaching Aboriginals at cricket.
His role with the black cricket team, that clearly says a lot about the man and about his relationship with Indigenous people.
It wasn't a nationally selected team, it was a group of squatters in the Western Districts of Victoria who had taught Aboriginal people living on their stations to play cricket. And on the name of novelty entertainment, someone had the idea of taking a cricket team of Aborigines to England. And the point being that they could play cricket, but they could also throw boomerangs. And Wills was approached, I imagine, because he was considered one of the leading cricketers of the day. He was probably the great Australian cricketer of the day. But he spoke Aboriginal languages. He spoke Djapurrung. And most of the men in the cricket team were Jawa Jali, and they're contiguous languages. So he was able to speak to them in their language. He didn't go to England. He lost political control of the enterprise. He lost every political battle he ever fought, and he lost that battle to have control of that team. To me, the fact they didn't take him, there are 2 tragedies in his life. One's the Kulin-Naringo massacre, but the second one is deeply personal, is that he didn't go on that tour because that Aboriginal cricket team led the MCC at Lords on the first innings, and then they lost. With him, they'd probably have won. That would have made him the first Australian cricket captain to win at Lords. That would have given his life a sense of a completed circle, but he never got that.